You're scrolling through Netflix for the third time tonight. Thousands of new shows, critically acclaimed movies you've never seen, entire genres waiting to be explored. And you know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to click on the Office search again, or Friends, or that one movie you've seen 17 times, and someone will inevitably ask, why are you watching that again? Don't you already know what happens? But here's what neuroscience just discovered. Your brain isn't being lazy, it's being incredibly strategic. And the people who only watch new content, they're missing something profound. Let's single quotes start with something that's going to completely reframe how you see this habit. Psychologist Dr. Crystal Russell at American University studied repeat viewing behavior and found something remarkable. When people re-watch familiar content, their brain activity shows something called diminished cognitive load. Your brain isn't working as hard to process plot, remember characters, or predict what happens next. But here's the twist: that freed up mental energy doesn't just disappear. It gets redirected. Research shows that when you rewatch, your brain shifts from processing what happens to processing how you feel about what happens. You're not watching the story anymore. You're experiencing the emotional landscape. And that distinction changes everything, because here's what most people don't understand about rewatching. It's not about the plot. You already know Jim and Pam get together. You already know how Shawshank ends. You already know who the killer is, who falls in love, who survives. But that's not what you're there for. Studies published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that familiarity with content triggers something called experiential control. When you know what's coming, you can prepare emotionally for the parts that move you. You can anticipate the jokes before they land. You can notice details you missed before. You're not passive. You're engaging with the material on a deeper, more sophisticated level than first-time viewers. But there's a neuroscience piece here that's even more fascinating. When your brain encounters something new, a new show, new movie, activates networks associated with alertness and stress response. Your amygdala stays engaged because your brain is scanning for potential threats or surprises. It's exhausting in ways most people don't consciously recognize. But when you watch something familiar, neuroscientist Dr. Jordan Gaines Lewis found that rewatching activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the network responsible for rest and recovery. Your brain recognizes safety. There are no surprises, no tension from uncertainty, no cognitive demands beyond what you can easily handle. Translation: rewatching isn't lazy. It's your nervous system actively choosing recovery. And this explains something you've probably noticed but never understood. You rewatch the most when you're stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, or exhausted. That's not coincidence. Research out of the University of Chicago found that during periods of high life stress or low emotional resources, people specifically seek out familiar media content. It's called media comfort food. Just like you crave actual comfort food when stressed, not because you're unimaginative, but because your body needs easy to process nutrition, you crave familiar media because your brain needs easy emotional input. When life is unpredictable and demanding, your viewing choices become a form of self-care. Here's something else. Researchers discovered that changes the way we think about this. Psychologist Dr. J.L. Derrick found that rewatching beloved shows and movies strengthens what she calls social surrogacy. The characters become pseudo-relationships that your brain processes similarly to real friendships. When you Friends for the 100th time, you're not just watching six people sit in a coffee shop. Your brain is experiencing the comfort of being around familiar people. Studies show this effect is so strong that people report feeling less lonely after rewatching familiar content. You're not being antisocial by staying home with your favorite show. You're meeting a genuine psychological need for connection in a way that requires zero emotional labor. And here's where it gets really interesting. You know how every time you rewatch something, you notice new details, new jokes you missed, background moments, subtle character development, foreshadowing you didn't catch the first time. That's not just you being more observant. Research shows this is actually your brain's reward system at work. Psychologists call it repeat viewing satisfaction. Each time you rewatch, you're picking up layers you couldn't process the first time because you were too busy following the plot. Studies show that people report getting more enjoyment from media on the second, third, even 10th viewing than they did the first time. You're not watching the same thing. You're watching something richer, deeper, more complete than first time viewers can access. But let's talk about the judgment you probably face. People act like rewatching is a waste of time. You could be experiencing something new. Why would you watch something you've already seen? Don't you get bored? But here's what research reveals about that criticism. A study published in the Journal of Communication found that people who heavily watch content score higher in conscientiousness and emotional stability than people who exclusively seek novelty. The constant need for new stimulation that's often associated with restlessness, dissatisfaction, and difficulty finding lasting satisfaction. You're not missing out by watching, you're demonstrating the psychological capacity to find sustained meaning in the same material, to appreciate nuance, to derive continued pleasure from what you already know. That's not boring. That's sophisticated. Common rewatching your comfort show or movie. Let's see how many of us have watched The Office, Friends, or Shawshank more times than we can count. You're not alone in this.